So. All right,
Oh,
dear Heavenly Lord, thank you, thank goodness.
holy!
Is the connection working and all? All right, let's try and get the.
I don't.
Do we have a good connection? Is that everything well? Okay. Yep.
Here, let me
Yep.
get
Okay.
my headphones on.
Okay. Boy, oh boy. I appreciate the patience. Thank you. Yeah, I should have mentioned even doing like a run through too. I apologize for having you going through all this shenanigans.
Oh,
Well, look, thank you so much, first of all, for putting up with that aspect. But let's not waste any more time and dig in here. I really appreciate the time here. I appreciate that you jumping on. And this is I absolutely love the new movie and Intrusion. So I'm very excited to dig into the aspects of the movie there and your career in film and theater as well. So I wanted to start off here early on. So as far as from an early age, with television series or maybe even a movie, what was something that resonated with you early on that may have inspired your inspiration to get into film?
ah, um, well, I do remember when I was younger. I mean, pretty much every weekend I watched Anne of Green Gables and
Okay.
The Sound of Music, which
Oh, okay.
was, I could memorize. I knew every character's lines. I could recite the entire movie, and The Sound of Music is like 4 hours long, so
Yeah.
I had that
Okay.
one down. But I also was really into detective stuff, like any type of and so Nancy Drew.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah.
TV shows like that inspired me because I have this bit of a like I love mystery and cop things, and I was always that kid that my mom and dad couldn't find me because I was running down dark alleys at night trying to figure out who's who's doing something wrong in the neighborhood, and I would want to report them. And yeah.
Oh man. Okay. I mean, so and even early on, was that something too, where you would have things like maybe guns, or you would have like costumes to dress up to? Like, was that
Yeah,
something that
yeah,
you were interested with?
yeah. Well, actually, I don't even know if you're going to be able to see this based on the phone, but I was a huge Wonder Woman. So
I love it.
do you
Nice.
remember Underoos? I don't know. Maybe that's before your time.
Yeah, I
But
do. I do actually. Yep.
where there's underwear for kids that are like superhero stuff.
Yep.
And so my parents were too cheap to buy me some. So I made mine out of like a cape of towel. And yeah, so Wonder
Oh
Woman.
man, I love it. That is awesome. That is awesome. And it's so fun too, like especially I mean nowadays with costumes and different things, and dressing up, you can get the literal, like thing. But when you're a little bit younger and maybe don't have the money or don't have the means and the imagination that goes into some of those things. And with that especially, I love it.
Oh
That's
yeah, all you
awesome.
need is tinfoil, like
Yeah.
tinfoil for the bracelets and like tall white socks that you can, color red. That's all you
Right.
need.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I love that. So, how about as far as and digging in further with that? As far as maybe an early form of acting with Halloween coming and dressing up for Halloween. Some of your favorite costumes that come to mind. What were some things that came to mind that maybe even you had to take on personality traits that were like an early form of acting?
Um, I don't know. Like I did this type of dressing up like superheroes and stuff quite
Regularly.
regularly, so it wasn't
Yeah.
like
Okay.
Halloween was one specific thing for me.
Okay.
And I played a lot of make believe. When I had a bit of an interesting upbringing because my grandfather and my father were both morticians. So my first home was a funeral home. So
Oh
I
wow.
would go through all kinds of, scenarios and play games and stuff in the coffin room. And, I
Wow.
don't know,
I mean,
maybe
you
that's
know,
why I
you,
am who I am. I don't know.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's one thing. When you're young, you don't really even necessarily realize. And then you grow up, you're like, whoa,
Oh
that's kind
yeah,
of an
no.
interesting upbringing.
Yeah, no, and it wasn't scary at all. Like these
Yeah.
people were just not talkative. That's all.
I mean, were there like were there were there interesting, I mean, things that come to mind as far as something that was, something maybe traumatic or scary when you were young and in that situation?
No, I was pretty young, but we used to play hide and go seek in the coffin room, like legit. And I do have this one memory where they were setting up for a funeral, and the coffin, was at the front of the room, and I was quite little, but I came up, and I remember introducing myself and saying, "Hi, my name is Erika," and trying to, and I remember vividly feeling kind of, how rude, like you're not responding to me, what's going on? And of course I learned that
Whoa.
they couldn't.
Oh man. Dang, that is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, well, and
I mean,
my best friend too, what was funny is my best friend was a boy, and he had asthma. So I don't know if you've seen the movie My Girl, where
my
she's
girl. Oh man.
that was my world. That was kind of.
Oh man, you're like, how did you guys write this movie? This is about my life. What is
Yeah.
happening here? You can't do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I must have a copyright something on that.
there's,
Like,
there's royalties you're missing out on, I think.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
boy, oh boy. Oh, that I mean, that's so interesting, and that's one of those things, where the innocence of everything. I mean, being young, and you don't know the things, but yeah,
Yeah.
looking back on it, it's probably like, huh, that
Hmm.
was a little bit of a interesting aspect. Wow, what a story. That's crazy. That's awesome. I don't want to say it's
Yeah.
crazy because I mean that's cool. That's cool.
Even when
As
we
far
moved,
as oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just one more thing to add. Even when we moved out of the funeral home and came into our home, like it was still normal that our station wagon was used as the hearse. And so you come home at lunchtime, and there's a little puff of white hair at the back of the station wagon, or like my uncle Bert used to drop us off at figure skating in the hearse. Like we'd be like, "No, can you drop us off like at least a block away?"
Man, oh man. Oh man. And all the kids are like, "Hey, can we come and see and hang out?" And you're like, "No, please just drop us off a little bit ways. We can just tell them that
Yeah,
we had to walk today for some reason. The car broke down." And
yeah,
oh
yeah.
man, I love that. That's great. What about as far what comes to mind with, scanning maybe a local video shop, in your youth, or maybe a local movie theater or a theater, as far as going to see plays, and your interest in career in that. Tell us about a movie that drew you based on the cover or the poster art. What comes to mind?
Um, well, like I said, I love any type of mystery or like thriller that way, like Indiana Jones, or that series, Jewel of the Nile. I don't remember if you've seen Jewel
Hmm,
of the Nile.
I don't
Uh,
think so.
that was an old one. Goonies,
Oh yeah,
the adventure, the kids, trying to find the treasure.
sure.
That stuff I always loved. When it comes to more scary stuff, I always picture. I think the poster for Jaws is kind of
Yes.
perfect because it's that unknown. You don't even know what's happening. Oh, yeah, there it
Yeah.
is. Yeah,
Love it.
Jaws, and then also Poltergeist with the little girl with a hand on their back. That
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I that those were good.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was so fun. I mean, as far as I guess in my childhood with VHSs and having the box art at a video shop and being able to turn it around, and it's like you almost felt like you're doing something wrong by seeing like the couple of extra stills. Like
Yeah,
I'm looking a little bit further into something I shouldn't be, and yeah, it was a lot of fun with that stuff for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and with Poltergeist, especially or even Jaws, like those covers that are just pulling you in, are like that's crazy. What was there ever anything as far as your earlier interest in theater? I know that was something that we're going to kind of we were going to dig into as well. How did that come about initially?
Initially, I started as a young, like a teenager, in the community theater group in the town that I was raised in, Canada.
Hmm.
And every year they would put on, Oliver or Annie or one of those things, and I would be part of that group. And that led
Oh,
to,
okay.
I loved. performance. But when I went into university, I actually went in to start in pre-med. Like I loved medicine as well, but my passion for acting won out. And in the end, I ended up with a degree in theater, kind of two sides of the spectrum. But
Yeah. Yeah, for
but I'm
sure.
glad
Well,
I am glad I did the acting direction.
yeah, sure. Now I've heard you mention too that early on it was in between you were looking in between either being a professional tennis player or an actor. And
Yeah.
and how did those choices come about? Did you have family that played tennis, or those are very different things, but I mean very aspirational for sure.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. And I remember writing that in my grade six, when you're made to make a journal entry,
Hmm.
and it was either a professional tennis player or an actor. And I, I never learned how to play tennis. So I didn't really have a choice. It was
That's not in the
it
cards
was,
then.
no, no. But
Okay.
I remember watching it a lot when I was a kid, like John McEnroe, and watching how, he'd get a little grumpy at times. And I don't know. I loved tennis. I loved the concept of tennis. That's
Oh,
about it
okay.
because I couldn't play it at all.
Oh, okay. Okay, got you. When so with your earlier days in theater, like that was school then, right? You said grade school or middle school there you started?
Yeah, early on, like in grade school, I was doing the community theater, and then that
Mm,
led
okay,
that led
right.
to more getting more involved with more professional theater in the area and dabbling in film and commercials because I'm from Western Canada,
Sure.
and when I was there, I was primarily theater in the university. It wasn't until I shifted to the States where I got more my hands more into the film area.
Oh, okay. What were there, so early on, were there moments as far as like maybe the first time that you would have to sing in a show, or something that comes to mind as far as, a particular nerve-wracking moment, or something that you had like lots of lines that you had to memorize for? Is there something that comes to mind with that?
Yeah, I mean, I yes, I get nervous before on theater primarily more than film. Anytime right before I'm going to go on, but my biggest one, I think, most challenging one I've had was a couple years ago. I was cast as Prospero in Tempest,
Oh,
which
yeah.
was it was one of those I'm going to do it because I can't say no to a challenge, but I was nervous. That's a big beast to take on. But I'm really glad I did. I love Shakespeare.
Yeah. Yeah,
I love
sure,
Shakespeare.
sure. And that was something that you would always like, that was like a dream role to be able to take on, right? Or at
It
least the
was
show. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. Well, and I'd done Tempest more than once, but to be given Prospero and taking it into that a mother side rather than a father, like making it kind of a female perspective of
Mhm.
a daughter mother relationship was I it was really interesting. Yeah.
Within theater, have there been certain aspects that you've taken ever since working in film that you feel like, being involved in theater has helped or maybe even advanced, your work when working on a film?
Yeah, that's a great question. People often ask me what's the difference between theater and film, and of course the delivery is much larger. It's on a bigger scale, but at the same time they're very much the same in that you have to be honest. Like it doesn't matter if you're delivering a line very big, it still has to be honest on stage, and it has to be. Acting is not acting, acting is reacting. So you can't plan ahead how I'm going to say a line. You just react. So whether you're in film or whether you're on stage, it's what the other person gives me that causes me to say the next line or what. And it doesn't matter whether you're this close with the camera right at your eyes or whether you're trying to project in a 500-seat theater. It's you have to be in the moment and just reacting to what's happening right there, just like on stage, but it's also on camera. Now camera, you have the ability to say cut and let's do it again, which is nice because you
Hmm.
can take another take, but it's that reacting, listening. You have to listen to the person that is opposite you, and that doesn't matter whether you're stage or film.
Sure. Well, so I mean, and as far as like with your work in Intrusion and the relationship between you and Dustin's character, was there something in advance as far as prep that you guys had kind of come together and went out for dinner or had drinks or just had conversations as far as building like a rapport before filming?
We did get to meet beforehand. I was very grateful. Dustin flew in, I think it was a couple months before we started filming. So he and I got to kind of just introduce ourselves to each other. You know, we're the husband and wife. And then also I had had the honor and the pleasure to work with Angelina before. Like I've been her mother 3 times now, I think, in film. So
Oh,
I, yeah,
okay.
yeah. So I adore her. I think she's extremely talented, but I had had the opportunity to work with her before, but I had never met Dustin. So we were able to hang out for a little while and just kind of, it's so much easier when you've had even a short conversation in person rather than showing up cold on set and going, "Hi, I'm Erica. I get to be your wife for the next 3 weeks," or
Right.
it's kind of nice to have gone through some of that awkward, "Hey, how you doing?" beforehand.
Sure, sure. And I guess I hear through different experiences as far as working on film, and some people have, an extended time, or some people have, a certain time where it's just, maybe a couple of hours even before, but just anything I'm sure, helps as far as kind of building that rapport and initial awkwardness of like, I don't know you, but yet I'm supposed to act like I've known you for so many years and I'm supposed to be heartbroken because of such and such.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome to hear because it certainly carries through in your guys' performances, and we'll be digging
Oh,
that, in a little bit here too. But
thank you.
um, as far even earlier on, before we get into the movie here, one last thing I wanted to dig into was any sort of tips or advice that you received early on that maybe still resonate with you today, may it be theater or in film that you still carry with you.
Well, one is that honesty, like just everything has to be very genuine and in the moment. Um, and listening, acting is not acting, it's reacting. That's a very core to what I was taught in school. And then I think the other thing that stuck with me is my one prof telling me that if you can do absolutely anything else, do it. Because
Oh,
acting, it's not an easy industry
right.
to be in.
Okay.
So if there's anything else that interests you, go ahead and do it.
Hmm.
I,
Wow. Yeah, I can see it being like a double-sided sword, as far as some people being like, well, I'm sitting here paying you to be a professor to tell me how to do this, and you're telling me not to.
yeah. Well, but then
But then
if
it's
you
an
reach the point,
inspiration.
right, because if you are driven to continue and do it, then you're in it for more than, it's not about fame. It's not
Sure.
about the money, or it's about doing a craft, getting good at it, working at it, and just loving it, loving what you do is the
I,
bottom
I
line.
appreciate that. Yeah. Initially, when I heard that, I was like, oh, it could be pretty good, discouraging. But I
Yeah.
feel like it's kind of a weeding out process, like with maybe even like a military thing. Like, you can't do the push-ups. Maybe you shouldn't be here.
Well, it is. That's exactly what it is because there's so much rejection, so much heartache, and it's in this business. You get 100 no's for every one yes that you get. So you have to be a fighter. You have to be willing to stick in there if you're going to make a career out of it.
Sure. Okay. Well, as far as with an intrusion, starting, digging into this, I wanted to dig into as far as the aspect. You've mentioned in interviews the research that you put into roles beforehand, and things that kind of go into putting yourself in the mindset of this character. Initially, what comes to mind initially? Getting the script and reading through it, and after what prep that you put into for the character of Joyce.
Well, Joyce, um, I started with just reading the script several times over and over again, and it was more just not looking at the whole script as a whole, but every time you go into one scene is because her whole storyline is kind of just trying to hold it together. So for me, it was important to take each scene as they came, because each moment was, I'm leading to a little bit of more unraveling of just trying to keep the family unit, trying not to let it break apart, and basically my drive of being there for my daughter. So I don't think I am answering your question right, but I think for me, I didn't look at this script as a whole, as sometimes scripts for me are from the storyline from beginning to end. For me, it was important to take each scene and the individually, and
Oh, okay.
where she was at in her journey of kind of Sam's journey of the lies, and knowing, knowing that it's going on, and that vibrating energy, but as a mom trying to hold things together. So yeah, this one was more taking it bit by bit and getting into the character. For me, it's a lot of the writing, kudos to Nick. If the writing's not on the page, it's really hard to get into that character. But if the writing is there, you just say the lines. You look at the person next to you, and you're there. You feel what's going on, like that, like the one scene outdoors. The emotion was on the page, so all I had to do was say it.
Yeah, I was certainly going to touch on that because there was initially I'd reached out to you, and it got to that point in the movie where I was like, if I'm going to be doing a month about this movie, there's no way I can't have you involved in this. And it was that scene, I'm not trying to be funny. This would be something even on a review, is heartbreaking. It is terribly, it's wrenching. And it not being a true conversation, or something that was deliberately like between two people that are going through this situation, it was so tough to watch. And as far as a performance, like, absolutely hats off. Like, that was
Thank you.
beautiful and awful all in the same time.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
In a complimentary way, I mean.
Thank you. Well, and it was more than just the performance, because what you don't see is that Dustin and I had to do that scene a few times in a row, and we were standing on, like, it was cold.
Oh, right.
We're on a patio, like on a lake, and it's like minus, I don't know what degree it was, but it was freezing. It was really
Oh.
cold. So, and I'm Canadian, so for me to say that is a big thing,
Right.
Little
Okay.
Dustin there with his, coming from the south, and I think
Yeah.
cold, right, Dustin?
Yeah.
I bet you're there.
That's
You're
funny.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is funny too. I mean, just kind of thinking of those things as far as the dynamic. And having Nick on, he had mentioned that it's not supposed to necessarily take place in Michigan, but like, as far as, like yourself being from Canada, and, there's little notes of like having, the accent, and then Dustin and having, his Southern accent and whatnot,
Yeah.
it was cool. And, like a transition of like taking itself out of, okay, well, everything was filmed in Michigan, and I know that I can see certain things, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it has to be there. So
Right.
that was probably a shock to him, though.
Yeah, yeah.
This is cold.
Yeah. Yeah, we
What?
joked with
I'm
him a
sorry, go
few
ahead.
times, a little bit about that,
Oh,
because
okay.
everything's like, I'm so cold. Like, it's all right. You're
Yeah.
okay.
I'm gonna have to ask him about how he
Yeah,
came about warming up and keeping not from breaking in those scenes, especially having to do
yeah.
something like that and being so cold, and then he's in the background, maybe even a little out of focus, so that might help him, where it's not so obvious of being terribly cold. But
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. What about the first day on alcohol? He says. Perfect. All right. What about the first day on scene? What was your first scene that you shot?
I was trying to remember that. I want to say that the scene, and funny enough, my screen keeps going dark, so that's why I keep pointing this.
Okay.
The first scene we did, I'm pretty sure, was in the kitchen after the stone or what after the window had broken, and
Okay.
she's on the telephone talking to Sam after cleaning up, putting things in the garbage. But funny enough is that we reshot that scene because our we changed locations. Our original house ended up we ended up going to a new house for the rest of the film. So
Hmm.
we reshot that scene. So the one I did first, you actually we don't see.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
What about the what did you wrap on? What was the last scene that you ended up shooting?
The last okay, I want to say that it was the big um fire, all the policemen, and but I might be wrong about that, Dustin. Do you remember what the last because it might have been it's either the big cop scene that was the climax, or
Hmm.
it was the scene coming home at the where I'm tipsy after having dinner with my brother and his wife and Sam,
Hmm.
where he's about to, I can't give away any spoilers, right? Can I?
Sure.
I'm not. I
Right.
shouldn't do
Yeah.
that, but he's coming in saying he has to go somewhere, and I'm you know just a little bit tipsy.
Oh, okay. Got you. Okay.
I
Yeah,
think that
and
was the last one. I think that was the last night.
yeah, it looks like that's what Dustin's saying too. Yeah. It was when we came back
Yeah,
from the restaurant.
yeah.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. What about as far as what was something initially reading the script, having the script and looking at it and maybe different things that you're visualizing. What was something that you felt that came out better than what you even thought, from page to screen when you finally watched the movie?
Well, I feel like the scope of the entire movie came out very like the cinematography side. I mean, our cinematographer is awesome. He
Hmm.
was great. So the angles that he was able to get, the perspective that he took in a lot of the shots, I was like, wow, that was good. That was really good. The storytelling through the angles, I I I just can't say enough about him. When it comes to a specific scene, I think that final with all the lights going and stuff because of relationships of the wonderful police force in Lake Orion and Rochester, and I mean they were so supportive, and the fact that we had real police members there, and they it was electric. Like
Sure.
everyone was it was really cool. I think that was my moment.
Okay. What about as far as with the bathtub scene? I don't want to get too far into like what spoilers or whatnot, just because I want people to be able to see it. I really wanted to dig into spoilers and kind of things that
Yeah.
are giving away the ending and some of the really fun aspects of the movie. But how did that come about as far as just tell us with makeup and the prep for that scene?
Yeah, we had a really good makeup lady that I mean when you see the scars
Yeah.
when you know
Yeah. Perfect.
don't want to give away anything.
Sure.
She did a fantastic job that way, and I that scene, it's never it's also one of those awkward moments where you're very vulnerable as an actress. But everyone was very professional, and it was a very important. I think it was an important scene as much as it's short. It's not a big, but it 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 puts you on that edge. It gives
Hmm.
it of whole like wow, this could get real serious, and it gives that underlying energy of a disturbance. Um, and I don't know if I can say anything more without giving away.
Sure. Well, I mean, I can ask too with a role like that. Have you ever had to do anything as far as like a controlled breathing, like what with that situation, where you're shooting and they're like, okay, hold your breath
Hold
for 40 seconds.
yes,
You're like, okay,
yeah, yeah.
you do
Well,
that.
and that's where it's kind of nice to be able to yell cut and then let's do it again, and then they can editing is wonderful. They can piece everything together, and
Okay, okay.
yeah,
It's nice with different shots, and you can kind of like different perspective. Okay,
right, yeah.
that's nice. I didn't know if that was something where it was like, oh, okay, this is just 50 seconds. It's not a big deal. Just take a breath, and you're like, okay, well, you try that.
Yeah, yeah, no, the magic of editing.
Yeah. Okay. Within the Michigan premiere, a funny thing was Dustin Prince had mentioned, ensuring the crowd that he wasn't the character that he portrayed. It was very funny, just the fact of after watching the movie, it's kind of like, man, this guy he's truly something else, and it was just it was a funny lightning moment, as far as for after the movie there. But were there particular moments that his performance pushed yours further as far as intensity?
Yeah, yeah, and well, the first one that comes to mind, I would say, would be that the outdoor patio scene. Um,
Mm,
the first half of it is is a monologue, is but he doesn't have to say anything to get the reaction out of me, because that's the point, is that he's it's been a lie for so long, and then to not, like, she just wants him to say something, and if he
mm,
doesn't, it feeds that energy even more. But then when we go from there, he tells me what I'm trying to get. But then as we transition into the house and the scene in the living room in the dark, where it becomes more of an argument, that I remember being pushed by his responses and really feeding off of that. Um, and I remember really badly wanting, and again, this is after effects, but I had that drink glass in my hand, and I wanted so bad to truly, like, throw it and shatter it in that moment. And we did it through magic, through movie magic, but I didn't get to actually break the glass. I remember that. But yeah,
uh,
in that moment, I remember being really pushed by Dustin's energy, and I'm very grateful.
Oof. Yeah. And certainly I can see that. That was one of those things too, where it was just kind of one of these moments where during the moment in the patio, I was just kind of hoping the whole time. I'm like, I hope he doesn't try to like interject, and I hope he doesn't try to say something, because she's just gonna full on snap. Like shit
Yeah.
is gonna go terrible really fast.
Yeah.
What as far as with it, through difficult situations, the character of Joyce, goes through and remaining a strong character throughout. Are there any actors or characters in films that you love, or maybe even in theater, that come to mind of strong female characters that have resonated with you and possibly pushed your performances one way or another?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Judi Dench and kind of the
Okay.
Brits. I don't know. they
Sure.
uh
Okay.
they I follow them, like Anthony Hopkins, but Judi Dench, and as for a specific performance, though, that's a hard one. Um, I'm also a huge Jodie Foster fan, and
Okay.
Silence of the Lambs is, like, out
Yeah.
of a horror movies, is one of my favorite, and I thought she was absolutely brilliant in that.
Mm.
The performances that hold my attention the most are the ones that are like a controlled anger, like when you can command a scene without having to yell. And I see Meryl Streep
Oh
does
yeah.
that so much, where she can be so angry, and it's almost worse when you're not
Mm.
yelling, if you can keep it as a controlled rage. And I think Meryl Streep, of course, she's incredible in everything. But specific, I don't know. I don't think I have one specific role
Okay.
that stands
Yeah.
out to me.
And really, it was a last minute thing that came to mind, but it was just something as far as through everything that your character is going through in this movie, and still remaining somehow, oddly, even at the end, still remaining together, and trying to tie everything together. It's a really powerful thing, just as far as for foreseeing, and whether people necessarily agree with the outcome at the end or not. That's kind of, I had differing opinions. My wife watched it and she's like, "Oh, there's no way. That's not happening. We're not going to do that. I'm not talking to your ass after this."
Yeah, I know.
So,
Yeah, that
but it's something as far as just a strong, a strong character, and through and through. Whether you were pissed off or whether it was something that you were trying to just cope. Yeah, it was something that came to mind.
interesting enough. I actually had a conversation about this with my sister just yesterday or day before. She had watched it and wanted to talk to me about it, and she brought up the comparison. Maybe it's the season because everyone's watching this movie right now, but Love Actually, which I love.
Oh, okay, sure.
But Emma Thompson's character in that, she compared Joyce to Emma Thompson's character because the whole time, two very different movies, but
Mm-hmm.
Emma's Thompson character is trying to hold it together the whole time. It's like, I have to, I'm doing Christmas and I'm doing this and I have to make the lobster outfit and the this and the this for the kids, and then finally just snaps but smiles when she does it. And it's
Yeah,
that
right.
found it interesting that she used that as a comparison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't think of that, but I have. It's been a little while since I watched it, but I'll have to watch it again. I think that was one that wasn't initially on my scope of watching, but my wife was like, "Oh, you have to see this. You cannot watch
Yeah,
it." So
yeah.
certainly did, and it was good, definitely. As far as the performance, though, we'll have to go back and watch it and see. But yeah, it was one of those. There was so many aspects, and I don't think it was necessarily a knock to the movie as far as even being inside of different genres. Just with there's a lot of drama in the thing in the movie, and there's thriller aspects to it. There's some horror nods with some of the score and some of the imagery, and that Santa Claus. I don't
Yeah.
that damn thing for some reason
Mm,
kind of pops in your head
yeah.
well after.
I know. We were all
Oh,
waiting for that moment where Dustin could beat it up. Like we were like,
yeah.
yeah,
Get this thing out of
yeah.
here. This is not going to be in my house. Oh man. One last thing I wanted to ask here. Whether in the process of filming, maybe even watching certain scenes for the first time or other moments that you had with an intrusion, what comes to mind as far as a standout point in your journey with the movie?
I I guess for me it came down to a lot of like just the relationships. And I remember there was one day we were filming, um, and everyone was on set. It was a bunch of us. So Angelina was there, and Dustin and Mike, who's phenomenal too. Mike Emery,
Mm-hmm.
uh, hats off to him. Um, and I remember just feeling at that moment, going, "Okay, this is now become a family, in a way. Like this is we're going into a scene, but we reached that point in our relationship building where it was comfortable and you could take risks without thinking it through. You could, I remember, hey man, that one's for Dustin. That's for Dustin. He like
Okay.
he knows exactly what I just said, and it's an inside joke. But
I
yeah,
like it.
I think so. I guess the biggest thing for me is the journey was on this one was is becoming that family.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can certainly absolutely respect that. As a viewer, I can definitely say the balcony scene was a scene that in film in general, in movies that I've watched in recent, that was completely crushing. And
Thank you.
I put that on a shelf as far as for people to you know compare to with someone that's in a scene that's having to break down, or someone that's having to completely spell out their heart. Job well done. Thank you very much for
Thank
that.
you.
As a viewer, I loved it.
Thank you. I appreciate those words. And I want to say thank you to you too. I mean, you're being so generous with your time to cover an intrusion over this month, to take, I mean, all these days to interview a bunch of us involved in it. I'm so grateful, and I want to thank you the opportunity.
Hey, I mean, it's my pleasure. You know, the thing I can say, and luckily after is, I started planning this without seeing the movie or really like much about it. I saw the trailer, but you know, it was one of those things before where I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, what if the movie's not that good? Like, this might be kind of interesting. And luckily, I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, everybody pulled this thing off. This is absolutely amazing. You know, it's just, and I didn't think that it was going to be anything like that, but it was just kind of funny where I was like, ooh, I took on, you know, planning and interviewing all these people and writing these interviews. And so thank all of you for this movie being
Mm,
awesome, because thank God I've had a few times renting it. I've had a few friends, you know, recommending and looking out for it. And I've done a lot of shout outs on here as well, too, you know, letting everybody know to check it out. And what a cool movie. I mean, and one of these things, too, where it even kind of falls into like a holiday play as far as some of the holiday movies, and a little
yeah,
bit more of a downer, but it fits. You know, it's
yeah,
kind of with uh, I guess some holiday horror movies aren't necessarily uppers, so
yeah, right, exactly.
can't say that. But yeah. All right. Well, this is wrapping up. I do have one finale, but this is your opportunity as far as maybe some things that you have coming up. If you have some things that you're working on in film or in theater,
Hmm.
what do you have going on?
Yeah, right now, I also work. I just finished doing some production coordinating on a film in Iowa called Silent Night in Algona. I think there's a couple
Hmm.
people from that film on this watching
Oh
this right
wow.
now.
Okay.
It's a World War II, a true story about the POW camps in around Algona, Iowa, and it's a
Hmm.
beautiful story, and we had a wonderful cast and crew on that. And then my husband and I also have a production company, and our next film has is completed post production and will be released in 2022. And it's another true story. It's called The Wind and the Reckoning,
Hmm.
a story about Hawaiian history around the outbreak of the leprosy outbreak around I think 1893, and a story about keeping family together and what the meaning of ohana being the word for family, as there was a big manhunt for this family, to they were rounding up anybody who was exposed or thought to be exposed to leprosy and putting them all on the island of Molokai. So anyway, it's a true story, and I'm
Wow.
really excited about that release. I think it's gonna it's gonna make an effect on the world.
Great. Wow. That's all. And I mean, remaining busy, you know, that's I mean, it's always a good thing. It's time consuming, but it's a nice complaint to have also.
Yeah, exactly. I'd much rather be busy
Awesome.
than bored.
Sure, sure. I love that. All right. All right, wrapping up here. I wanted to ask you as far as, you know, this being, you know, a hypothetical or possibly even a real thing. If you had the opportunity to star in a theatrical adaptation of any film that you love, what movie would it be, and who would you want to be in the cast along with you?
Hmm. Well, of course, Judy Dench.
Yeah,
I
okay.
would want to go opposite her. Um, one of my favorite. I guess. I would have to say, oh, there's too many to choose from. I I like the classics. Um, I guess I mean, I would love to do a film adaptation of a Shakespeare. I guess that would be my dream with Judy Dench is to do
Oh, okay.
a film version of Midsummer Night's Dream or King Lear. I would love to do
Oh
Lear.
man.
Um, yeah, I guess that would be it.
That's awesome. That'd be very cool. That and hopefully something comes of that. That would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, just putting it out there, put it out in
Yeah,
the
sure.
universe, and
Yeah,
maybe it'll happen.
there you go. Well, and there isn't. I mean, there is some Shakespeare movies that are out there too.
Hmm.
You know, but I mean, it would definitely be something. You know, it's always nice to see the adaptations, and as long as they're done well. You know, as long as you know whoever's kind of doing the things with production design and with direction and writing, they kind of pay attention to the smaller details and things.
Yeah.
That's always a good thing. So yeah, that'd be awesome. And
Yeah.
possibly even your team there, you're doing production and have different things kind of going on. So might be an
Maybe.
option. It'd be
Maybe.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Erika, thank you so much for
Oh,
taking the time today. This has been amazing, and I really appreciate the work you put into the movie, and looking forward to what you have coming up next.
thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate it.
Yep, not a problem. I'll have this edited, and it'll be on YouTube here in the next couple of weeks. Here, I'll have a link on here or whatnot too. So, yeah, you take care and stay safe and stay healthy.
You too. You too.
All
Happy
right,
holidays.
bye bye. Yep,
Bye.
you too. Take care.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.